serious view of it. When it comes to finance, I usually pay particular attention to him. Most of the predictions he's made on this platform, even when things seemed better, when it's come to tell us that no, things are not good or they will get worse over time, it has all been proven right. Oh, nice to see you this morning. And how are you?
Good to see you, Sana. Good morning. I'm quite well. Yes, by His grace, as we say.
You are on parliamentary holiday in terms of work in Parliament, but not a holiday at all.
No, not on holiday as an MP. But parliamentary duties are just one of the MP's functions.
Okay.
The real work, as they say, the real work day ground, as they say, and that's in the constituency.
How's the ground?
Not bad. I mean, people can't wait. There's a lot of disillusionment.
Okay.
People are basically tired. They can't take it anymore.
Okay.
Things are really, really tough.
Okay.
The cost of living, standard of living, it's not really good.
Okay.
And when you are an MP, you kind of feel it firsthand.
Okay.
Because people will then be coming to you with problems that in the past you would have thought were trivial.
Okay.
When you have somebody basically calling you to ask you for 20 cedis to eat, then that's serious. So these are some of the things that makes you want to keep going, hoping that there will be an opportunity for His Excellency John Dramani Maham's return, and for us to reset, the country and begin to put the building blocks again,
okay,
and get things right, for people to begin to feel some space. Because at the moment it's tight. Some space in their lives.
But have you ever also considered the fact that perhaps when you find yourself in this situation, people may sometimes have a tendency to even blame those of you in Parliament? Have you had that in those instances?
Yes. And I think we cannot be completely exonerated.
Okay.
Because from the ordinary man's standpoint, and per our constitution, everything, especially loans and stuff, pass through Parliament. Okay. We are the lawmakers. Loans pass through Parliament. So if we say this country is indebted to the hilt, then one will either ask a question. Now, who caused them? Who's been approving these loans? And it's us. Basically based on the lies and other things that we are told, things being brought to us, basically from a blind side and all that. I mean, not trying to make excuses. I believe we can do more. The new standing orders that we have, and the new committees and stuff that Right Honorable Speaker has created, from where I stand, will help strengthening some of the weakness that we have in Parliament in providing an oversight responsibility for these things. I mean, one of the committees that I'm excited about is the Committee on the Economy and Development.
Okay.
That I believe will begin to look at the economic impact of all these loans and all these projects that we're doing. Because to be honest with you, we are not strong in that area in terms of looking at. I mean, the executive brings the loans, we get them approved, and they are gone to spend it. Nobody hears from them again until they are coming for a new loan or something of that nature. And you don't know how the money is basically being used. And then we keep talking about what has the money been used. If we begin to measure or look at the impact, do an impact analysis on every loan that comes to Parliament, on every project that is being funded either by GOG or funded the government of Ghana, or through any means which eventually becomes a liability on the government of Ghana, or even a contingent liability, depending on where the money is coming from. So these are some of the committees that I believe will strengthen the work of the legislature, in further checking the executives. Because the problem we have in this country is not only about having borrowed too much, but it's what has the money been used for? If we can really account for the money that is being used, for the things that they said they will, you would see an impact in the country. Okay. We wouldn't be in this hopeless and helplessness situation.
The subject matter when it comes to Parliament it's always about, in carrying out this duty, sometimes extreme partisanship that's demonstrated. All of a sudden you see members of Parliament, because their party is in power, just pack themselves together and support things that they themselves would in private say they are against and jump behind it. So Parliament then have these committees, but the committees are always split and they are unable to do the work of supervision as effectively as possible.
Well, I agree that, we've had a different school of thought. Something that, look, Parliament should be Parliament. Legislature should be a legislature and should not meddle, with the executive. But it's better to have the committees to perform a particular function than not having them. So for me, some of these committees that we are having is provides an additional strength. Yes, this partisan issues that you have is there. But if you don't have the committee in the first place, you wouldn't even be able to navigate that. But, when you have the political structure or the constitutional structure that we have at the moment, where members of Parliament or the legislature, the executive will have to choose a good chunk of percentage from them to become ministers. You have people on the ruling side, as you rightly said, who are basically not only interested in making laws or making sure that things go on well in the country, but they're also looking at their own welfare in terms of getting a ministerial appointment in the future or that. So they try to conduct themselves and try to navigate the political part in a way that otherwise they would not have done, just to be in the good books of their government and to sit potentially for a ministerial position. So sometimes I do agree with people who think that, look, if you want to serve as a member of Parliament, as a legislature, then you should not be looking at the executive. And therefore the executive should also come from a different pool so that you can actually perform your oversight responsibility. I tend to agree with them, but then, when you are in there as a politician as well, you see the advantage of having members of Parliament being part of the executive. Because at the end of the day, it's people who go and fight for seats for governments to come. And so the structure needs to be looked at, that if you're a member of Parliament and you don't have any chance of becoming a minister, is there other things that, you can do that wouldn't necessarily make you look at a ministerial position, and for that reason, you'll be able to do your work without looking for favors in the future from the executive? I think if we're able to establish that, and that when you become a legislator, you don't become an executive and all that, but there has to be proper, cushioning, if I can put it that way, for that to be able to work effectively.
Well, once again, welcome. That's just by the way.
That's an intro.
I don't know if you are, because Parliament has mentioned in this issue the matter of the recording that the Attorney General was head on. That Parliament has been mentioned as one of the places where this matter can be dealt with. What do you think about? Because you spend a significant portion of your time in the UK. The UK is one of the places where they won't tolerate things like this. What do you think about the way the whole thing have played out, the Attorney General's conduct, the fact that he's still in office and everything?
nothing surprises me again in this country. That so many things have gone on in this country that it really makes you wonder whether we are actually, I mean, somebody would say we are just a banana republic. That things that are serious and should not be entertained, people have become shameless in what they do. They don't care about anything, and they do things and get away with it. And so many things. It's not just this particular incident. I can count up so many things that worries me as a country and where we are going. I mean, like you said, in any jurisdiction, this Attorney General will not be sitting in office, not even for another day since that tape came out. He himself would have done the decent thing and shifted himself from that position. But in this country, you can get people to the cliff, you still have to push them. So if you don't push them, nothing is actually going to happen. They will basically find their way back into legitimacy when they have done things that are untoward. It's shocking. I mean, some of the things I heard, it even questions the intelligence of the Attorney General, himself. I feel ashamed that we went to the, yes. I mean, I feel ashamed that, to be honest with you, we went to the same school. I mean, well, I'm much older, than him. But people who go to that school are supposed to, be smart enough to not do certain things. And at one point, he was asking whether he was being recorded. And I said to myself, this guy, and I know him, I said to myself, this guy, he doesn't seem to see above his head. Because the way the gentleman was talking with him, you can clearly tell that the gentleman is navigating a particular part to get some particular information. And that can only be done when you are being recorded. And because he is buried in the maybe evil is a strong word, he's buried in basically trying to nail Honorable Attoforsen and get him off the scene, to get him off the back of the government, of what he has done in terms of keeping the government in check, from not when he became a minority leader, but way back as a ranking member of the Finance Committee. In fact, most of the successes we chalked in opposition actually came from, things that we were able to expose, from the Finance Committee that he was leading as a ranking member, and then to the position where he is now. So he's been a thorn in their flesh, and they wish him away. And they were basically trying to put things together to make that wish come true. But, God being so good, sometimes things happen for a reason. That without such a recording, whether it's an entrapment or whatever you want to call it, nobody would have believed that this is the machination, the orchestration being done by this government using this young, and I call him young because he's a relatively young guy, youngest Attorney General ever, and all those things. Sometimes people say people are old and they should retire. And sometimes you put young people and then it's a disaster. So it's not really about being old or being young, but it's really knowing what the right thing is and doing the right thing. I think this is a lesson that I get from this. But it's quite strange, and going to court and the judge saying the things she said. Clearly, earlier on looks like she's on the side of the people, but could not, go any further in terms of basically throwing this case out. This is where it's gotten to. A case like this again in any jurisdiction will not see another day, another light in any day. But here we are, as I said, in Ghana. you will have to hang people, not threaten to hang them for them to really give up.
You actually have to hang them.
Yeah, yes. But when you threaten to hang them, it doesn't scare anyone.
Very interesting.
I mean, I don't mean it literally.
Well, that's a good one. Yeah. But having said that, now they say Parliament can look into this. Do you agree that they should go to Parliament?
Well, I mean, something has to be done. Where we have to do it, I can't sit here and tell you.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe Mr. Speaker will make a ruling on that.
Okay.
But I cannot tell you. I mean...
but something certainly has to be done.
Something has to be done. I'm not a constitutional expert. I'm not a lawyer. I mean, I can't tell you where people will say this has to be obviously been investigated. Surely it has to be investigated. I mean, was it his voice on the tape? Looks like nobody has come to challenge that it was actually him suggesting to a defendant or to an accused person that he should get a medical, excuse form to cheat.
Yeah.
That's a serious crime. It is not that particular act, but the potential that this guy has in causing evil is the underlying thing that we are not looking at. This is serious, done by anybody. It's a serious contempt to be done by the Attorney General to somebody that he is prosecuting. I mean, that's not how to get a plea bargain.
But it's shocking. He has essentially labeled himself the righteous man who traps have been sent, that many of the traps have been, in fact, I think 2 days ago, he said many traps have been set for him and he will escape all of them. He said the decision of the court yesterday means that he has escaped those traps, that it is others who are engaged in deception, manipulation of facts and distortion, not him.
Well, escaping and being let off are two different things. I think that so far he's being let off. Okay. And he himself has no conscience to give it up. Look, this is not the first time these kind of things, happen. I read somewhere that, somewhere in 1979, we had a, Attorney General called Emisa, who got himself in a similar mess and trying to, get some information out of, somebody being accused of something. And then it was basically messed up. And he did the honorable thing. That seems lost in our part of the world, in our country today. That, look, we can all make mistakes. But the sense of doing the right thing is not even there. You have made a mistake and give way or do the right thing. I mean, you put your hand up. That, look, I screwed this up. And then you go and rehabilitate. That doesn't seem to... People rehabilitate in their work.
Yeah.
It's shocking. I mean, I get so frustrated in this country that sometimes you don't even see the point of what you are fighting. Because evil seems to be fighting good and evil seems to be succeeding. This is the country that we live in. And I mean, you look at it and you say to yourself, what chance, even if you don't have a chance, what chance has other people lower down the scale? It's troubling. I am a troubled man, a troubled politician in this country, a frustrated one. Things I see, things I'm closer to that I see, shocks me. You don't even know where to start the conversation. Because it seems like the people who we are trying to have that conversation with are not even on the same page for you to have any decent discussion. They are on a different plane. When you are in Mars, they are probably on Pluto. Completely different. So a conversation cannot even start. Everything going on in this country, people who are defending the indefensible seems to be on a different level. They are not even at a point where they have any intention of even reasoning to look at the objectivity of what is being discussed. And that they've taken an entrenched position. So you can't even start a conversation with. It doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter what good ideas you have to suggest in solving problems. The people you are working with are not listening. So how do you help? Where do you go from here? It's sickening.
I see.
We live in a rotten country, completely rotten. Corruption is endemic everywhere. People are corrupt without even knowing they are. That's the problem. Somebody's doing something that is pure corruption, but they become immune to corruption because it's endemic and they don't see anything wrong with it. So how do you even start a discussion with somebody that, hey, my brother and sister, what you are doing is wrong. Having 1 million under your bed, is not a norm. Even if it's your own money. And that it leads to suspicion. It's like standing behind somebody's window, late in the night. And then people come and shout that you're a thief. You're trying to break in, and you said, no, you are not. Yes, you haven't broken, through the window. But why will you be standing there at that particular time? You give suspicion. And some of these things, the Cecilia, the part, this, that, and it goes on and on and on and on. And we still continue like nothing has happened. We sit at radio stations, television stations, everyone defending their side. And we get up and go home and you are happy with yourself that you are a communicator and you've gone and defend your party. Whether what you're doing is wrong or you have just, your job is to go and defend any, excuse my language, anything rubbish that is out there. And nobody seems to. They just say, oh, he talks well. Oh, he talked very well. Nobody's looking at the substance of what is being talked about. People are looking at whether you were able to, people have become criminal lawyers. You know what criminal lawyers do? They defend criminals. So everybody's become like anybody who talks on radio station, it's like his own criminal lawyer. Defending criminals because they belong to the same political party, because they've gotten a favor. I mean, this country is sickening. It's really sickening. And you feel sorry for the generation that is coming. And you think, something needs to happen, Senna. Something needs to happen in this country. Nobody wants a military intervention and those things that happen. But then if people get boxed into a corner and there's no way out, then you open the window or the door for such untoward things to happen. We, as a democracy, needs to find a way to tackle this issue. We need a complete reset. We need change of personnel, holding certain positions. You have people who are in office but are not in power.
They're in office but not in power.
Not in power. And when we start talking, I will tell you, some of the people who are in office, they're not in power. When somebody is not in power, it means he has no power to make any decisions. Okay. But they are occupying
the office.
Giving the impression that I'm the so and so. But they have no power to do anything.
But and having said that, in this kind of situations, leadership is important.
Absolutely, extremely important. And we are lacking leadership at the moment in this country.
Because we do have and I recall when your party was in power, whenever pressure is put on the president, usually he acts. He's forced to do act. There are people who have been forced to resign, even when they've virtually done the work, but Ghanaians says they are not satisfied with the work that was done. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. But do you see that with this government? Because the president has not spoken about this, and the president himself is highly praised in the law profession, but Not a word.
They really don't care. This become a shameless country. People are doing things and don't give a hoot. What happens? You know, they don't care. They don't have, like you said, President Mahama, because he has conscience. So when certain things were happening during his time, he felt that it was his responsibility as the president of the republic, the leader of the nation, to do something about it. It didn't matter how he was knocked down. He got up and tried to do something about the situation. These guys don't care. You get somebody who tells you that if you think there's doom, so go and do your timetable. I mean, what is the care in such a person? And that this person, a friend of mine, thinks he's a tough guy. If you think that you have doom, so go do your timetable. I mean, such an irresponsible response to a serious crisis happening in the country that's killing people, that is affecting people's businesses, and a whole lot. And the man responsible sits somewhere, and then those above him do worse. So you learn from there. When your leader, the president, is not saying anything or whatever, then what do you care? You know, you get a position. As I said, people are occupying offices, but they are not in power. You have the finance minister who basically is a domestic finance minister, and there's an international one. You go to IMF or World Bank spring meetings, and the international finance minister is there, and the domestic one is also there. Where is your power as a finance? And you know who the president listens to. The president listens to the international finance minister, who was your what is it called? Your predecessor. You know, and then he's sitting in the same meeting with you. I mean, what locus have you really got? You've got to consult him. You've got to get, whatever you say, you've got to be careful, because that could be your last day. If he takes something you said that is not in line with what the president thinks or whatever, you have no opinion. Meanwhile, you are supposed to be the principal economic and financial advisor to the president. But you have no such powers.
A local finance minister, an international finance minister.
Yeah.
But currently we have one finance minister.
Well, on paper.
But you're saying we have...
But in practice, I mean, what would Ken Ofori Atta be doing at an IMF spring meetings? He's not the finance minister. Yes, he may be an investment advisor to the president or whatever. But don't you think that getting the two of them there in a negotiation gets the thing crowded? It gets it crowded. Yes, you can consult and you can advise from behind the scenes. Do you have to be there? So you have this finance minister obviously trying to preserve his job. He's just been given the finance minister position, which everybody will be grateful to have. Maybe not everybody. Some people will be grateful to have in a short time to the end of the term of the government. So he's being careful, so he keeps that position. He's looking at, Dr. Bawumia is the candidate who's vying to be president. In the unlikely event that Dr. Bawumia becomes president, very unlikely event, this man, Honorable Amin Adams, he's looking at a role to play in Bawumia's government, probably continue as a finance minister. So his job as a finance minister, finance minister is a kind of it can be a very hatchet job. A lot of people don't like, be in the position of a finance minister because you create enemies, even in your own government, because people want to do things that you don't want to. You think it's not the right thing to do. You don't want to allow them. Party bigwigs carrying all sorts of term sheets of loans and things, walking around the corridors of power, trying to get somebody to approve loans that we don't need. And then you, the finance minister, says no. When a person coming from the presidency or the corridors of power, you become an enemy. It's a hatchet job. You've got to take decisions in the best interest of the nation. You've got to say no when you have to say no. You've got to do the right thing. But then you find this finance minister who becomes a diplomatic navigator.
Diplomatic navigator.
Yes, he's diplomatically navigating himself through the current president and the future one. And for that matter, he has to be doing Ofori Atta's whatever bidding. Ofori Atta is sitting right there in a meeting with him. He has no opportunity even to say things that he believes in. So nothing has really changed. And the sad thing is that we think we're smart people. What we don't realize is that the people we are negotiating with see through all that we're doing. They don't believe that this.
They really get the message when they are sitting with you.
Yes.
That you are you are being named the finance minister, but this man has the power.
I have been there, thanks to my finance minister, who involved me in these meetings. And I know how these people think. I have worked with some of them in the past before I came into all this. I know how they think. They can see through it. Look, these people know your economy better than you. I've been on a roadshow where, again, by courtesy of my minister, Dep, I have led a roadshow in North America in order to see investors and be able to get Eurobond while the minister is also maybe doing Europe or vice versa. And then in the end, when we are coming to make a decision, he comes and preside over. These people, if you don't know your stuff, what you are talking about, and you do all these, what is it called, brochures and all that, and take it to them, and gross your what is happening in your economy, they will find you out. They will tell holes into your presentation. If you don't know what you're talking about, you can't go. So a lot of the things that we sit here and say, and we take it there, they just don't believe anything we are saying. I mean, you talk about turning the corner, you talk about not out of the woods yet, you say this, you take, and then this new guy has come, talking about how we are making progress,
yes,
how we are doing well in the international, debt negotiation. We are doing absolutely nothing. We don't have a clue. We don't even understand what we are doing. You can look. We have never done this type of negotiations before. We don't have the competence. We don't have the expertise to do it.
How should they have because this matter has come up many times. But before I come there, of course, the negotiation with the foreign debt holders. Before I come there, you said it's what do you say? Something navigator. Diplomatic navigator.
Yeah.
Now, the last time I had a conversation with you, one of the things we talked about was if Ken Ofori Atta goes, the type of finance minister that takes over, is a diplomatic navigator the person we need in this kind of situation with the short time this government has?
You need a hatchet, somebody who can do a hatchet job.
A hatchet job?
Yes. That hatchet job is doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You cut it where we need to cut it.
Someone who can cut as much
as... Who can cut us, you are not raising the revenue. You have lots of expenditure. Sudden wasteful expenditure. You've got to be able to cut them if you are not raising the revenue. Because you are not being able to raise money to fund your deficit. Because you've been cut out of the capital market, all the places where you raise money outside. You've been cut. Now you are overburdening the local capital market.
Okay.
You are overburdening the local bond market. You're doing treasury bills. Even in your own country, you lack citizenry confidence. You lack investor confidence. So even your own bonds, and bonds is anything above 1 year. Any instrument, any debt instrument above 1 year. People are not participating. The 2 years, the 5-year bonds and all that. It's the old ones that are just sitting there, roll over. Now everything is on treasury bills. And treasury bills is what we are doing, auctioning every week, raising money. They said we raised 15 billion or something last month. The previous month was about 14 billion or something. And you think about that, 14 billion. So who We are not being allowed to borrow internationally, but we are doing it equally heavily home. Because you think about it, and then they tell you, you see, Bank of England, Bank of Ghana is part of the problem. This Bank of Ghana is rotten. You know, who watches the watchman? Bank of Ghana is supposed to be autonomous, is supposed to be independent. They are masters of their own rule. They print money. They take money on behalf of the government. They buy some themselves. It's a mess. And a central bank, which is supposed to be a custodian bank. Central banks are custodian banks of the nation. They keep the nation's asset for the nation. They look for money for the nation, and the nation pays back. The custodian of the market itself has become a participant. Heavily. Nobody is checking them. And this bank is incurring losses. How can a central bank really incur losses if you understand the operations of central bank? It's absolutely impossible. The central bank is not in any business of buying and selling. Well, not in an open market. It's not a commercial bank. It's not an investment bank. It's a custodian, what they call a custodian bank. You know, if you want to know what a custodian bank is, let's say pension funds. The pension funds pay their money into a certain bank, and then the fund money just go to that bank, get that money, invest it on behalf of the so that bank holding the money is a custodian bank.
Okay.
And that's what the central bank is. The central bank of any country is the biggest custodian bank of that country. That holds the government money. Your job is to hold the government receipt, and that is export receipt, revenues on behalf of the government. Your job is that if the government is looking for money, you go and borrow that money on behalf of the government upon the instruction of the government. You don't go there yourself. Okay. Your job is to make sure that, you know, balance of payment issues are being handled on behalf of the government. Your job is to keep a reserve, which comes from this receipt, together with borrowed money and use it in a way. What is the profit here and what is the loss? Yes, you may make certain profit. In fact, it's a profit-making machine.
The central bank.
The central bank. It is a central bank that prints money. The only institution in this country, in fact, throughout the world, apart from those who employ to actually physically do the work, the central bank is the only bank in this country that prints the cedi. And the cedi, look, let me give you a small demonstration on how they make money. If you want to see how central banks money, let me use my last cocoa money. You see this too? This is 20 Ghana cedis.
Okay.
This is 200 Ghana cedis. Okay?
Yeah.
All these currencies is the central bank that prints them. Yeah. We have all this Delarue and all those people print money for us. But they can't print until we tell them to.
Okay.
So you go, the cost of printing this money. Okay, if you look at the paper is almost exactly the same paper. But the 200 cedis is slightly, only slightly bigger. This money I might have to leave it here for cocoa money. You know, the only slight difference is that the 200 is slightly bigger. So in terms of paper, the 200 cedis doesn't cost much more than the 20 Ghana cedis.
Okay.
So ideally, it is more profitable to be printing more 200 Ghana cedis than to print 20. Because the cost of printing the money is what makes the difference. So let's say paper is almost the same. This is slightly bigger. So let's take an example. You use 2 cedis to print this money. 20 cedis. You use 2 cedis to print it. 1 cedi is for the paper. The other 1 cedi, this is just for argument's sake. The other 1 cedi is for the features. Mm-hmm. As you can see, this money has a thread line. It has a watermark. Mm-hmm. It was what is called a micro text. Those things that you have to raise
in order to read it.
To read or put it on a microscope to be able to read it. It has what is called interglow printing, which is basically how they emboss these portraits and all that on it. So these are security features. These are all security features. The same thing is done to this one. But the features on this will be much more expensive because of the note. Security features here will be much stronger than this.
Okay.
So let's say it takes 2 CDs to print 20 CDs, but it takes 20 CDs to print 200. Okay, so because 10 CDs is for the paper, 10 is for the security features, which is more than that.
Okay.
Now, the face value, when the money arrives in Bank of Ghana, when it's printed, wherever they print it and bring it, and let's say Bank of Ghana prints it, when they say Bank of Ghana is printing money, that's what they mean. When the money arrives in Bank of Ghana, the face value in technical terms of the money, not the face value you know in bond, the face value of 20 CDs is actually 2 CDs. That's the cost of printing this money. Okay. The face value of 200 CDs is 20 CDs. That's the cost to Bank of Ghana. This is what they have to pay somebody to print this money for them. It is not 200 CDs yet, and it's not 20 CDs yet. What does the Bank of Ghana do? It's the bank of last resort. That's the bank that commercial banks come to when they are in trouble and they need money, and the bank of last resort gives them money. So when you come to Bank of Ghana and they take these 200 CDs and give you, which is a loan, to go and sort your problems and pay it back, this money then assumes a market value of 200 Ghana cedis. Okay. So to Bank of Ghana, they spend 20 cedis to get 200 cedis. So Bank of Ghana is making 180 Ghana cedis on each 200 cedis
they release,
based on the argument I'm making. The same, 2 cedis. Bank of Ghana gives this money out to any bank. They are making about 18. I'm simplifying it for listeners to viewers to understand. It's about 18. So all this profit that the Bank of Ghana is making, they don't make profits, but they make losses. So you have to begin to question yourself. Don't listen to what Bank of Ghana is telling us, the reasons. You know, sometimes I've been challenging some of these reasons, even in Parliament at some stage, that look, how can you, if we, unless of course, what we were taught in school was not exactly what's happening. But if, even in theory and in practice, things can be slightly different, what you are talking about doesn't make sense. How could you be making losses 2022 of 60 billion and 2023 make losses of 10 billion? It doesn't make sense. If central banking role is exactly what Bank of Ghana is doing, something seriously rotten is going on in Bank of Ghana.
Their defense is that if you look around the world, there are many banks of very advanced countries where they also make losses. In fact, if you recall, they've even put side by side. You go to Canada.
Not in the quantum. And those banks can tell you exactly why those things happen. Bank of England can tell you exactly what happened. The Bank of England losses was as a result of Bank of England buying back its own securities, what they call the buyback. Americans call it the quantitative easing. Mm-hmm. Okay, and buying back in Ghana, buying back is a credit to government and a debit to Bank of Ghana. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. When you take 2022 budget and you look in 2022 budget, some monies that were put in government books that they call, that we were saying were, what is it called, were central bank financing government. They told us that they were repos. Repos is something called repurchasing offer. It's like shares. If a company has shares and the shares are traded much lower than what they think it should be, because there's an asymmetry of information. The company knows something about themselves. They know that they are more valuable than they are being traded in the market. They do something called share buyback. They go to the market, spend their own money to buy their shares. So in doing so, their shares will not be cheaply flooded in the market. Then it preserves value. Maybe it's a pharmaceutical company. They are coming up with a new drug that nobody knows about. And they know that their share prices will go through the roof. But at the moment traded cheaply in the market, they buy their shares so that when that thing comes back, their share will go up. It's the same with bonds. Bonds and shares they are basically equity, they are basically twins. So if you're doing a repurchasing offer does not give money to government, it takes money away. Because you've sold government bonds as Bank of Ghana. And you think that the yields are not going well, and that the bonds are not being treated well in the secondary market, because you sell them in the primary market and they are traded in the secondary market. And you realize that they are not doing well. So the Bank of Ghana decided to do a repurchasing offer. It's buying back its own bonds. Who should pay? Isn't it the Bank of Ghana? So you pay. You who have bought bonds, whom I'm doing a repurchasing offer with, I pay you so I can take the bond away from you. So the money leaves me to you. So this should be a debit to government of Ghana.
Okay.
But it appears as credit. And when you ask them, they say it's repo, but it's funding the government of Ghana. How can a repurchasing offer fund Bank of Ghana? And the government balance sheet should be a reflective of the central bank's balance sheet. They should be holding same balance sheet. In fact, Ghana government hasn't got a balance sheet anyway. Ghana government's balance sheet is the central bank. Because the money that comes in, it comes from the central bank. The money that leaves in the central bank. So your asset and liability can easily be photocopied on the other side.
Okay.
So something fundamentally wrong. One of the problems, let me tell you one of the secrets that's going on. All the things they are telling you about, don't listen to it. Because it's not true. What is basically happened? The 60 billion, what did they tell us? They told us that it was because of the debt restructuring that they incurred that debt. Now, sit down. Put your economic cap on, or your common sense. You didn't need an economic, your common sense cap on. And ask yourself, I am the central bank. I sell bonds on behalf of the government to you, the citizen or the investor. I sell you bonds, and now I can't pay because when the bonds mature, I have to pay you back. I don't have the money to pay you back. So I decide I'm going to give you a haircut. I'm going to reduce the returns you are going to get on your interest or coupons and on your principal. Okay. Though they were lying, they were not giving a principal haircut. Yet people were losing 50% of their investment. So I'm going to give you a haircut. So by giving you a haircut, it means that if I promise you a bond is worth 100 Ghana cedis that I will pay you when it matures, I can't. So I'm paying you 60 instead of 100. Okay. Who loses money? Who loses money in this transaction? Is it you?
Yeah.
So how can the government or the Bank of Ghana incur losses in a debt restructuring? Look, I sit in this country and I give up. Things don't make sense. People are doing things anyhow. They either don't understand or they are deliberately profiteering for the things that they are doing, thinking that the ordinary man doesn't understand all these technical jargons and all the things that they are doing. But you look at it in practical terms. And then you go further and say that, okay, if these guys say they are also suffering from haircut, then what exactly is happening? Then you realize further that the reason why they are suffering from a haircut is that Bank of Ghana itself is heavily engaged in buying its own bonds. Okay, they come and tell you that we are issuing this bond to the market, the issuer.
The bond has been oversubscribed.
Yes, oversubscribed. Now, there is nothing wrong with that, except that it has a threshold.
Okay.
Because the Bank of Ghana acts like an underwriter of the bond.
Okay.
If the bond doesn't do well, it becomes the responsibility of Bank of Ghana. So it's like somebody cooking for you. And after cooking, they say, oh, let me eat some of the food to show you that I haven't poisoned you or anything, so that you too can engage in eating. So that's the work of an underwriter, to try and get you sucked in to participate in the purchasing. So Bank of Ghana has the right to buy a limited amount of shares that they are issuing, bonds that they are issuing. But they are overdoing it. Why? Because the bonds are not attractive. There's lack of investor confidence, business confidence, citizenry confidence. lack of all of this. So the bond, if they put it out there, will be undersubscribed. To give a wrong hype and hope to people, they tend to participate in these bonds. And this can be proved. This is numerical. This doesn't, require any, what is it called that? Oh, Rickets said this backing. I mean, explain to me, and some economist should explain to me how you can issue bonds to somebody, give them a haircut, and you suffer losses to that quantum. There may be some administrative and other small losses, but not a 60 billion. You are suffering, you the issuer, you are suffering more than the people you have issued the bonds to. Does that make sense to anybody? I mean, are we asleep as a country? Where are all the economists, the finance people? Where are they in this government? We have good technocrats, PhDs and all that, but they don't have a mouth. They are in office, but they are not in power.
Honorable, I have to take a break. When we come back, I'll ask you about what is happening to our CD and whether what we are being told that the CD is rebounding or whatever is true. Honorable Koku George Rickets is in studio with us. Now, cook like a pro with Mortar Spices. Mortar's got lots of tasty flavors for every meal. Their main products are seasoning powder, bouillon cubes, and natural spices. Mortar's makes your food yummy. They make cooking easier and more fun. Choose from our 3 yummy flavors: chicken, beef, and shrimp. They will make your food taste even better. Get Mortar's products at your local market or store. For bulk purchase or inquiries, call Mortar's on 0244 599 661 or 024 715 1877. Mortar's, cook like a boss. And also introducing the Hisense Euro promo. Elevate your Euro 2024 experience with unbeatable deals on TVs, sound systems, and mobile phones. Catch every match in stunning detail with our state-of-the-art high-definition 4K QLED and mini LED TVs, ranging from 32-inch up to a whopping 100-inch, providing you with all the goodies to choose from. Also fill the stadium atmosphere at your home with crystal clear sound from our sound bars and speakers, and stay connected on the go with our latest smartphones. From 10th June to 15th June, rush to our showrooms and grab your favorite at discounted prices and immerse yourself in the excitement of Euro 20.